Hey, this is Sue, and here's a classic Twister Talk show for you to enjoy. Come along with us as we dig into the archives. And as always, thank you for listening.
It's a twister! It's a twister! Back up! Back up! Back up!
And now you know why Reach flunked parallel parking.
There you go.
He told him to back up, and it wasn't going to happen.
It wasn't going to happen.
It wasn't going to happen. It's Trisha Talk. I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
All right, and Brandon's off on assignment. We won't tell you where he is, but
That's
he's off.
great.
If he shows up at your door, just feed him. He'll be all right.
Just tell us. He'll be okay.
Anyway, we just, again, we mentioned this, and I'm going to kind of tip my hat to my cohorts here because, guys, very good feedback on the shows, and I really thank you, Sue, for we've been wanting to do this for a long time.
Yeah.
We've almost been on it for a year now. We're just short of a year.
Yeah, what's really hilarious is, I mean, we first talked about this back when we were both working at a computer store, and of course the joke was we would get on public access TV. Because back then, you know, podcasting had not yet been invented. Which I guess kind of dates us, Gary.
That's right. But also the other thing was, Sue, I couldn't do that NPR voice. This is NPR.
Yeah, if only we could have gotten Carl Castle.
I mean, we'd have been all right there.
Yeah.
We've been good. But it just, again, just thanks, everybody. And check out the Facebook page. We're going to keep telling you.
We enjoy doing this, and we hope you're enjoying it, too.
Well, from what we're gathering, everybody seems to be having a good time with it. And we provide, like one person said, hey, you make a good break in the day. I said, you know what? If that's how you're looking, you enjoy the show, that's great. Just do that, you know. But eat your lunch first. Don't listen to us. And it'd be like swimming. Don't go back in the water.
Yeah, you don't want to go at least for half an hour.
At least half an hour before you, after listening to us. We've been talking about November stuff, and of course, with
a lot of interesting weather in November. The last time we talked about a tornado outbreak, and now we're going to talk about a snowstorm.
Yes, and by gosh, for some reason, there are big snowstorms in November. I don't understand. Just amazing. Odd. Just amazing. But this was, again, one of these, this storm, they saw it coming basically, but it was like, I think, again, because it's 1950, they knew something was forming. But again, it's hard to, in that day with the technology, trying to figure out how bad it was going to be, and it was worse than they expected.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
It was worse than they expected. This storm formed in November 24th, 1950. Now remember, we talk about the impacts here, but this storm actually swept the whole country. It came out of Canada, went through the plains and everything.
It really did a lot of damage along the East Coast, too, which I think is sometimes forgotten because, as you'll find out as we discuss this storm, the most famous part of this storm is one of the most minor parts of the storm, the fact that it interrupted what is a holy event in Ohio,
really?
A Ohio State football game.
Yep. This storm, unfortunately, like Sue said, it forcing many fatalities.
383 fatalities, which is mind-bending. $66 million in damage, which would be roughly equivalent to $811 million today.
And it affected the eastern U.S. and parts of southeast Canada. I'll give you a little background real quickly here. The Great Appalachian Storm of November 1950 was a large extratropical cyclone, in other words, a big low pressure system, which moved through the eastern U.S., causing blizzard conditions along the western slopes of the Appalachians and significant winds and heavy rainfall east of the mountains. Hurricane force winds, you heard me right, hurricane force winds peaking at 110 miles an hour in Concord, New Hampshire, and 160 in the Highlands of New England, disrupted the power to 1 million customers during the event.
Yeah, it really depended on what side of the storm you were on, because again, if you were west of the Appalachians, you were snowed on. If you were east of the Appalachians, you were rained on.
Flooding rains too. It wasn't just
flooding rains, disastrous rains combined with high tides and just a lot of damage.
A lot of damage and incredible wind speeds. You know, those are the two extreme examples, but there are winds in the major cities 60, 70, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
This is a huge storm.
Interestingly enough, this was the biggest payout for a weather event for the insurance companies up to that time. More than any hurricane or tornado or anything before, this was the biggest one for, I would think, some time after this, too.
Yeah, it impacted 22 states, killing 383 people, injuring over 116, causing, again, 67.7 $7 million in damage. It was $800 million
it's
in
incredible.
2023. This is a storm that was one of the few storms that ranked as a Category 5 in Regional Snowfall Index. Yes, there is a Regional Snowfall Index, but we don't talk about it very much because it's really not used much today.
Yeah, and most of us hate snow anyway.
Yeah.
That year was a La Nina year, which favors a storm track from the Ohio and Tennessee valleys into the Appalachians. The cyclone initially formed in southeast North Carolina near a cold front on the morning of November 24th as the main cyclone over the Great Lakes weakened. Rapid development ensued. By the evening of November 25th, the cyclone, we're all Battlestar Galactica fans here too. The cyclone retrograded or moved northwestward into Ohio due to a blocking ridge up across eastern Canada. So this is one of those weird storms that actually was moving basically east to west instead of the other way.
Right. And real quickly, what a block means usually means a high pressure system, a strong one over part of the country that will cause what they call an omega block.
Yes.
And what that means that these storms cannot progress. Before we talk real quick about the snow, some all-time records were set in the southeast with this 5 above at Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah, which Birmingham, they don't get weather like that.
22 at Mobile.
Yeah, which is bad for Mobile also.
Yeah. Montgomery, Alabama, 13.
If you don't live in the South, you do not realize that buildings down there normally either don't have heat or they have maybe a fireplace or something, and they're not very well insulated. So weather like that for the South can be very crippling for folks.
Well, Pensacola, 22 above. Jacksonville, 23.
Can you imagine in Florida?
Yeah. It's like, Atlanta, 3 above.
Yeah.
You just get an idea. That's how bad it was. Now, it dropped in Louisville, 1 below. Very rarely does it get that cold that soon, because Ohio was the big thing. That's what most of us remember or read about. And speaking of read about, I do want to give a quick plug here, and we'll come back and talk about it again. But there's a great book out.
Yes, published just recently.
Yeah, on the superstorm that we're talking about, Superstorm 1950 by David A. Call. It's a book currently in print.
Yes.
Unlike some of the books we mentioned, sometimes you can't find anymore. But this one is published by the Purdue University Press, and I tell you, folks, it's a great read. I enjoyed reading the books.
Yeah, it's a good read, and it's a good study. Not only the storm, but he has a lot of anecdotes, and he covers the whole storm.
Oh,
I mean, everybody here in Columbus, again, for obvious reasons, is familiar with this particular storm without realizing that it had massive impacts elsewhere.
22 states and parts of Canada were impacted by this storm severely. Yeah. Not like a little bit of rain, a little bit of snow, and they all went away.
Yeah. If you talk to a Columbusite and say Snowball, they apparently think that a compass of some kind was drawn around Columbus, and within a 50-mile distance there was a gigantic snowstorm, and nothing happened anywhere else.
That's right. It was sunny and warm in 75 in Philadelphia.
Yes.
But anyway, on the storm's west side, nearly a foot of snow did fall in Dayton.
Yeah, that's a lot of snow.
Which combined with the wind and cold temperatures to constitute their worst blizzard on record. Of course, the thing about this Appalachian snowstorm, the Great Snow, was the fact that it has a Columbus tie because of why?
Why? The Ohio State-Michigan game.
That's right. We're not going to cancel that. But yeah, this is known as a Snowball. Most of you know about it. I mean, everybody listens in the Ohio area. You know exactly what this is about.
If you say Snowball to a Columbusite, they know instantaneously what you're saying, even if they were not alive or even, for that matter, thought of at that time.
The game was played in the teeth of a full-scale blizzard, 5 inches of snow on the ground, and snow whistling through the air. Despite the fact it was the worst blizzard in 37 years in Columbus, believe it or not, folks, 50,503 people showed up for the game.
Yes, 50,000 complete idiots showed up for this game. And from what I read, they were actually lighting fires in the bleachers to try to stay warm.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Luckily, since the stadium was concrete, there wasn't any lasting damage, but it's
still where you just shake your head.
Yeah.
And no, folks, this wasn't because of Woody Hayes. Woody Hayes was hired the year after.
This was before his day.
Yep. So anyway, what happened with the Big Ten commissioners? The Big Ten Commission got together with the athletic directors and presidents of the universities, and said, it's up to you. And most of them said, a couple of them did cancel, but most of them said, we're going to go ahead and play. We're going to play because we have to. And this is the funny thing. Ohio State basically had won the Big Ten, but they said they didn't want to go to a forfeit or this because you didn't play Michigan, so you're not qualified to go. And So they went ahead and said, well, the team is here. Let's go ahead and play Michigan.
Let's go ahead and play.
And they played Michigan. The temperatures, wind chills were in the zero, below zero. Several players had frostbite issues.
Yeah, they could not see the yard lines because it was snowing that fast. They couldn't keep them shoveled.
Yep. So here's a breakdown just in case you want to know. The strategy of both teams became the same. Run a play or two at the line, straight in, and then kick. Michigan won the game 9-3. Okay, here's a breakdown of the score. Ohio State scored first after Bob Monsman recovered a block kick, and Vic Janowitz, one of the great players, kicked a field goal. Michigan's first score of the game came from a block kick that rolled out of the end zone for a safety. With 47 seconds remaining in the first half, Michigan's Tony Molson blocked a punt that fell on the ground in the end zone for a touchdown, and the final score of 9-3. So they scored a touchdown on a miffed punt, and that was it. Vic Janowitz said after the game, "It was like a nightmare. My hands were numb and blue. I had no feeling in them, and I don't know how I hung onto the ball. It was terrible. You wanted to do something with it, but you couldn't." So, Ohio State loses 9-3. Michigan goes to the Rose Bowl. Just for history, folks, they lost. So
well, there you go.
There you go.
It would have been better for both teams if they had just forfeited.
Stay home.
Yes.
Just stay home.
That's crazy.
Now, neither team scored a first down.
That's probably a record.
Yeah, and there were 44 punts.
This really is the kind of game that brings you back to thinking of the Pharaoh Hatshepsut and her expeditions to the land of punt, or as I call it, the land of fourth down.
The land of fourth down. So with all these people there, and of course, like I said, Michigan went to the Rose Bowl and lost. But anyway, it was a crazy day.
So there were a couple of other teams that played that day too, right, Gary?
Yes, because
they were stupid too.
Because stupidity in the Big Ten is epidemic.
And it always has been too, and it still is to this day.
Yeah, I know.
Nothing's changed. And as we speak, incidentally, Gary is wearing a 2015 championship Ohio State shirt. So just so you know, he's a fan.
I'm a fan. I love the team. Well, that was a great. That was a team that surprised everybody.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, like the team that won the 1968 championship or the 69 Rose Bowl.
That surprised people too.
Even Woody Hayes says, "Well, I really expected we weren't going to be that good until next year. Well, I thought we were a year behind. We were ahead of schedule. I'll take it." Of course, next year they lost to Michigan 24-12.
Well, there you go.
Because the week before, and I can't completely blame them for feeling this way, they were told no matter what happened, they're not going to a bowl game. Remember back in those days?
Yeah, that's right.
Back in those days, the Big Ten had one bowl game. That was the Rose Bowl.
That was the Rose Bowl, yeah.
And you could not go 2 years in a row. You were not allowed to repeat.
Oh, my.
That changed in the mid-'70s when they realized, we got a lot of money to make from this.
Yeah.
So anyway.
This was a money-making venture.
So let me give you the other scores that day. Now, the weather wasn't quite as bad as it was here, but it was still pretty bad. Northwestern beat Illinois 14-7. Purdue beat Indiana 13-zip. And Wisconsin beat Minnesota 14-zip. That was it. Now,
those actually sound like more competitive games.
Yeah. The weather wasn't quite as bad there. The snow had stopped. But here's the interesting point, Sue, and I want to talk about this for a moment. It was when people left the game trying to get out of Columbus. There was the problem.
Can you
They
imagine?
were not able to.
I'll bet people were stranded all over the place.
Well, the thing was, hotels were full.
Of course.
They were full up, so OSU, Ohio State, opened some of their buildings for people to stay in and to stay warm and get food. They were able to do that. Fortunately, thankfully, power did not go out. People who got stranded in their cars,
oh my God,
trying to head home to Michigan, going up 23, and fortunately, some fatalities happened because people froze to death out there. Temperatures dropped below zero here that night, and so really incredibly brutal cold, incredibly wild blizzard. And I think if the people had the crowds not already been there, they may have canceled the game.
Yeah, they probably should have either way, or either that or turned it into arena football and moved it into St. John's Arena.
It really did something.
Yeah.
But you think about that. So not only the football game that's just part of the story, but when you look in total, this storm really did cause havoc for several days. It wasn't like it snowed a little bit and everything went home. Everybody went home.
It was a big storm. In fact, I was reading somebody basically compared it to the 1913 White Hurricane.
Okay, yeah, that would be. I would be probably apropos from what I've been reading on that.
The main difference being that this happened farther east, and the White Hurricane primarily happened over the lakes.
Yeah. But we, again, recommend, if you get a chance, Superstorm by David A. Call, published by Purdue Press. got a lot of information we shared today. In here, he has a lot of great stories, anecdotal stories about people.
Yeah, he did a lot of research. And it's really very good book.
Very thorough, and is very thorough in what he checked out with everybody. It was really impressive.
Basically a pretty much forgotten storm, and he really did a great job laying it all out.
Yes, he did. He did a great job, and if you get a chance to read the book, it's available, online at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, libraries. Check out the library and read it. It'll be cold this week, so it'll be a good time to read.
Here's your time.
Good time to read. So anyway, I think we did our usual interesting job on snowstorms. So anyway, until Snowball comes your way, I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
Thank you for joining us on Twister Talk. We'll see you next time.
Next time.